The first time Aloan Voss saw Cashin Dravik bleed, she was standing barefoot in his kitchen at 2:17 in the morning, holding a wooden spoon in one hand and a bowl of soup in the other. The second thing she noticed was the gun in his hand. The third was the expression on his face when she did something no one in his world had dared to do in years. She ignored the gun completely. "You're dripping blood on my clean floor." Cashin stared at her. Rainwater ran from his black hair onto the shoulders of an expensive charcoal coat. His white shirt was torn beneath his jacket, and a dark stain spread slowly across his left side. Two armed men stood behind him. Neither spoke. Aloan frowned. "I spent 40 minutes mopping that marble." Cashin's expression remained cold. "Go upstairs." "No." One of the guards visibly stiffened. People did not say no to Cashin Dravik. Not employees. Not rivals. Sometimes not judges. But Aloan set the soup down and pointed toward a chair. "Sit." Cashin looked at the chair. Then at her. "Did you hear me?" "Perfectly." "Then go upstairs. And leave you bleeding. It isn't your concern. It became my concern when you walked into my kitchen looking like someone stabbed a funeral director." One of the guards turned his face away. Cashin noticed. "Something amusing, Auric?" "No, sir." Aloan folded her arms. She was 29, plus size with soft brown skin, thick dark curls pulled into a messy knot, and absolutely none of the trembling obedience Cashin expected from household employees. Her pale yellow night robe was tied over ordinary pajamas. She looked nothing like the women who normally entered Cashin's world. She wasn't intimidated by his mansion. She wasn't fascinated by his money. And apparently she wasn't impressed by the gun in his hand. Cashin lowered it. "It's a scratch." Aloan looked at the blood. "That scratch is ruining a very expensive shirt. I have others." "Of course that's your concern." She grabbed a clean towel. Cashin's security chief, Auric Vale, finally spoke. "Sir, Dr. Halden is 12 minutes away." "Good." Aloan stopped. "You call a doctor?" "Yes." "Then why didn't you say so?" "You didn't ask." She stared at Auric. Then at Cashin. "Fine." She picked up her soup. "Bleed responsibly until he arrives." She turned away. Then Cashin swayed. Only slightly. Most people wouldn't have noticed. Aloan did. The bowl hit the counter. She crossed the room just as Cashin reached for the table. "Cashin." It was the first time she had used his first name. His eyes lifted. Then his knees gave way. Auric rushed forward. Aloan got there first. She couldn't hold Cashin's full weight, but she managed to slow his fall. "Chair." Auric dragged one closer. Together, they lowered him. Cashin's face had gone pale. "It's not a scratch," Aloan whispered. Cashin gave her a faint, irritated look. "I gather that." She pressed the towel against his side. He caught her wrist. "Don't." She looked at his hand. Then at him. "Are you planning to intimidate the blood into going back inside your body?" Auric almost smiled again. Cashin released her. Aloan pressed harder. He inhaled sharply. "Sorry." She didn't sound sorry. Cashin watched her. There was something strange in her eyes. Concern. Nothing else. No calculation. No excitement about being close to him. No fear. Just concern. That unsettled him more than the wound. "Why are you awake?" he asked. "I couldn't sleep." "Why?" "Because someone keeps a grandfather clock in the East Corridor that sounds like a cathedral exploding every hour." Cashin blinked. "That clock belonged to my grandfather. Your grandfather hated sleep." Despite the pain, something almost happened to Cashin's mouth. Almost. Then headlights swept across the windows. The doctor had arrived. Aloan stood. Auric took her place. She looked at Cashin. "You'll be fine. You don't know that." "No." She picked up the abandoned bowl. "But I made too much soup, so dying tonight would be extremely inconvenient." Then she walked away. Cashin watched her disappear through the servants' corridor. Dr. Halden entered carrying a medical bag. "What happened?" Auric began explaining. Cashin barely listened. His eyes remained fixed on the doorway. "Who was that?" Halden asked. Cashin answered quietly. "My maid." Auric looked at him. "No, sir." Cashin frowned. "What?" "That's Aloan." "I know her name." Auric hesitated. "You asked who she was." Cashin's gaze returned to the empty doorway. He didn't understand why the correction irritated him. Perhaps because Auric was right. For 3 months, Aloan Voss had lived beneath his roof. She cleaned his rooms, organized his library, argued with his cook, rearranged flowers, and irritated him almost daily. Yet until that night, Cashin had known almost nothing about her. He certainly did not know that before the year ended, Eloan would do something so extraordinary that the coldest man in the criminal underworld would risk everything he had built to protect her. But what changed Cashin Dravik was not that she saved his life. It was what she refused to take afterward. Cashin had never believed in love. Not romantic love. Not unconditional love. Not the sentimental version people wrote into songs and promised at altars. To him, affection was simply another transaction with prettier language. He had learned that lesson at 11 years old. His father, Severin Dravik, had controlled one of the most feared organizations along the northern coast. Cashin's mother, Evelis, had been elegant, intelligent, and miserable. Cashin remembered their arguments. His father buying jewelry afterward. His mother accepting it. His father disappearing for weeks. His mother threatening to leave. Then staying. Cashin once asked why. Evelis looked at her son and said something he never forgot. People stay where their survival is guaranteed. Not where they were loved. Where they were safe. At 14, Cashin watched his mother finally leave. She didn't take him. She took jewelry, cash, and documents. But not him. 3 years later, Severin was murdered. Cashin's uncle raised him until Cashin became powerful enough to take control himself. By 37, Cashin had transformed the Dravik organization. Smuggling remained. Protection networks remained. So did men who would kill for him. But Cashin had moved enormous portions of the family fortune into legitimate shipping, construction, hotels, and private security. He trusted contracts, leverage, loyalty proven by action, never love. When one of his closest associates married, Cashin attended the wedding for 27 minutes. At the reception, Auric asked, "You don't believe any of this?" Cashin watched the bride and groom dancing. "I believe they're happy. That's something. For now. You think everyone leaves?" "No." Cashin took a drink. "Some stay because leaving is expensive." Auric laughed. "You are profoundly depressing. I am realistic." That realism followed Cashin everywhere. Women entered his life. None stayed long. He was generous but emotionally unreachable. He never lied about it. No promises. No future. No declarations. Then Eloan Voss arrived at Dravik House. Not because Cashin hired her. His elderly housekeeper did. Mrs. Finra had managed the estate for 23 years. After 2 maids resigned within a month, she interviewed replacements without consulting Cashin. Eloan arrived wearing a green dress and carrying a folder. Mrs. Finra liked her immediately. "You have experience?" "Hotels." "Why leave?" "Management changed." "References?" Eloan handed them over. "Excellent. Can you cook?" "Enough to avoid starvation." "Clean?" "Extremely well when properly annoyed." Mrs. Finra smiled. "You'll fit in." Eloan didn't realize whose mansion it was until she signed the employment documents. She stared at the name. "Dravik?" "Yes." "As in Cashin Dravik?" Mrs. Finra adjusted her spectacles. "Do you know another?" Eloan considered leaving. She knew the rumors. Everyone did. Then she remembered the rent she owed, the savings she had nearly exhausted, and the younger sister whose university fees were due in 2 months. "When do I start?" Cashin first noticed her 4 days later. He entered his study and found the curtains open. He stopped. "Who opened these?" Eloan turned from the bookshelf. "I did." "Close them." "Why?" Cashin stared at her. Most employees immediately obeyed. Eloan waited. "I don't like them open." "Your books do." "What?" "This room smells damp." "My study does not smell damp." "It does." Cashin looked toward Mrs. Finra. She suddenly became interested in dusting a table. Eloan continued. "Some of these books are older than both of us. They need airflow. Close the curtains." "The curtains have nothing to do with airflow." Cashin narrowed his eyes. Eloan sighed. "Fine." She closed them, then opened the windows. Cashin stared. Eloan smiled politely. "Compromise." That evening he asked Mrs. Finra, "Where did you find her?" "Employment agency." "Send her back." "No." Cashin slowly looked at the elderly housekeeper. Mrs. Finra had known him since childhood. She feared him less than almost anyone. You need employees who aren't terrified of you. I don't. You absolutely do. She argues. So did your grandmother. My grandmother once threw a plate at my father. And he deserved it. Cash inside. Keep her away from my study. The next morning Aloan was in his study. Cashin entered. She froze. He stared. She pointed toward the shelves. Mrs. Fenris sent me. Of course she did. That was how it began. Small collisions. Aloan replaced flowers Cashin hated. He ordered them removed. She put different ones back. She discovered he skipped breakfast and began leaving coffee and toast in his study. He ignored the toast. She changed it to fruit. He ate the fruit. She noticed. Said nothing. Cashin noticed that she said nothing. That bothered him more. Unlike several employees, Aloan never performed kindness in front of him. She did things when she thought he wasn't watching. She learned that the youngest gardener sent most of his wages to his mother, so she quietly packed leftover food for him. When a kitchen assistant broke an expensive serving dish, Aloan took responsibility because she knew Cashin's reputation terrified the girl. Cashin discovered the truth through security footage. He summoned Aloan. Did you break the Saravan platter? Yes. No, you didn't. Aloan paused. Cashin turned his laptop toward her. The footage showed the assistant dropping it. Aloan sighed. Then why ask? Why did you lie? She was frightened. So, she made a mistake. And you look like you execute people for breathing incorrectly. Cashin leaned back. I have never executed an employee over tableware. Wonderful. Shall we put that in the staff handbook? Cashin almost smiled. Almost. You lied to me. Yes. That could get you dismissed. Yes. Yet you did it. Aloan's expression changed. She has 2 children. That isn't relevant. It was to me. Cashin studied her. Go. Am I fired? No. Why? I haven't decided. You just said go. Aloan. Going. She left. Cashin never punished the kitchen assistant. Nor Aloan. He told himself it was because replacing staff was inconvenient. Oric didn't believe him. Neither did Mrs. Fenra. 3 months later came the shooting. Cashin had met a rival organization at an abandoned rail depot. The meeting became an ambush. One bullet grazed his side deeply enough to cause serious blood loss, but missed anything vital. The doctor stitched him in the mansion's private medical room. Aloan waited outside. She told herself she was waiting because the floor needed cleaning. Mrs. Finra found her sitting there at 4 in the morning. You could go to bed. I know. He'll survive. I know. Mrs. Finra sat beside her. You care about him. Aloan looked offended. I care when anyone is shot. Of course. Don't start. I didn't say anything. You're thinking loudly. Mrs. Finra smiled. Aloan went upstairs. The following morning Cashin woke, expecting pain. He found soup. A covered bowl sat beside his bed. No note. He knew who made it. He ate every spoonful. 3 days later, he returned to work. Aloan caught him descending the stairs. What are you doing? Walking. You're supposed to rest. I have rested. For 3 days. Exactly. Humans aren't mobile phones, Mr. Dravik. You can't charge yourself to 30% and decide that's enough. Cashin continued downstairs. Aloan followed. You'll reopen the wound. No. You're impossible. So I've been told. By everyone. Mostly you. He reached the bottom. Pain suddenly tightened his side. Aloan saw it. Without thinking, she offered her arm. Cashin looked down. She realized what she had done. For a moment, neither moved. Then Cashin accepted. His hand rested lightly against her forearm. Aloan helped him toward the sitting room. Something changed between them that day. Not dramatically. There was no confession. No kiss. No sweeping music. Just awareness. Cashin began noticing when Aloan entered rooms. Aloan began noticing when he wasn't home. He learned she hummed while polishing silver. She learned he read history when unable to sleep. He discovered she loved old detective films. She discovered he secretly hated formal dinners. Then Cashin learned why Aloan needed the job. He overheard her arguing on the telephone. No, Maylise, don't withdraw from university. Pause. I'll find it. Another pause. No, listen to me. You've worked too hard. Cashin stopped outside the pantry. Alohan's voice became softer. I'll send the tuition. She ended the call. Cashin walked away before she saw him. The next morning, his accountant entered. Cashin gave him Melis Voss's university details. Pay the outstanding tuition. The accountant nodded. Under what foundation? None. Personal? Yes. Should Miss Voss be informed? No. The accountant hesitated. Cashin frowned. What? Nothing. Say it. You're paying your maid's sister's tuition anonymously. Yes. And you don't find that unusual? Cashin stared. The accountant left. 2 days later, Alohan stormed into Cashin's study. He looked up. You paid Melis's tuition. Cashin said nothing. Did you? Yes. Why? Because it needed paying. Alohan placed an envelope on his desk. What is that? My repayment schedule. Cashin stared. You're joking. No. You cannot repay that from your salary. Then it'll take a while. I don't want repayment. I do. Alohan. No. Something in her tone surprised him. She sat opposite. You don't get to turn kindness into debt. Cashin's expression changed. That wasn't my intention. I know. Then what is the problem? Alohan took a breath. My mother spent her whole marriage accepting things from a man who later reminded her what everything cost. Cashin went quiet. Every dress, every meal, every school bill, every roof. He called them gifts until he wanted obedience. Cashin looked at the envelope. I'm not that man. I know, but I need to know that too. He understood. Slowly. Fine. Alohan blinked. Fine. Repay it. I will. 10 a month. She stared. 10. Yes. That will take several centuries. I am patient. Alohan laughed. Cashin watched her. Something inside him shifted. That was the first time he admitted to himself that he liked making her laugh. Not because he wanted something, because the sound made the house feel different. Warmer. Dangerous realization. So Cashin did what he always did when something threatened his control. He withdrew. For 2 weeks, he barely spoke to her. Alohan noticed. She pretended not to. Then a woman named Sorel Avain arrived. Beautiful. Wealthy. Daughter of a powerful family. She and Cashin had known each other for years. Sorel stayed for dinner. Alohan served the table. She hated how aware she was of them. Sorel laughed at something Cashin said. Alohan nearly dropped a spoon. Ridiculous. She had no claim on him. She was an employee. After dinner, Sorel found Alohan arranging flowers. You're the maid Cashin likes. Alohan looked up. I'm one of several. No. Sorel smiled. You're the one. I don't know what that means. Neither does he. Alohan returned to the flowers. Sorel looked her over. Not cruelly. Curiously. You're not his usual type. Alohan's hand stopped. There it was. The sentence plus-size women heard in 100 disguises. She smiled. I wasn't aware I was any type. Sorel immediately understood. That came out badly. It usually does. I wasn't talking about your body. Then what? You don't seem impressed by him. Alohan looked toward the dining room. I'm impressed by him. Sorel raised an eyebrow. He survived being shot and still thinks soup is optional. That's impressive stupidity. Sorel laughed. Alohan smiled despite herself. Then Sorel became serious. Cashin doesn't let people care about him. Why are you telling me? Because I tried once. Alohan looked at her. We were engaged. That shocked her. What happened? He ended it. Why? I told him I loved him. Alohan frowned. That seems like an unusual reason to end an engagement. For Cashin, it was terrifying. Sorel left later that evening. Cashin found Alohan in the hallway. What did she tell you? Alohan kept walking. That your taste in women is excellent. Cashin followed. Alohan. She told me you were engaged. Years ago. And ended it because she loved you. Cashin stopped. Alohan turned. Is that true? Partly. What is the other part? None of your concern. The words landed harder than he intended. Alohan's face changed. Of course. She nodded. Good night, Mr. Dravik. Cashin watched her walk away. He regretted it immediately. But pride kept him silent. 3 days later, Alohan requested a meeting. Mrs. Finra accompanied her. Cashin knew something was wrong. Alohan placed an envelope on his desk. Not the repayment schedule. A resignation. Cashin stared at it. No. Alohan blinked. That wasn't a question. I know. You can't reject my resignation. I just did. Mrs. Fenris sighed. I'll leave you too. She escaped before either could object. Cashin looked at Lowen. Why? I received another job. Pay. Better. I'll double it. The Lowen stared. That's exactly why I need to leave. What does that mean? This isn't about money. Then what? She hesitated. I'm becoming too comfortable here. Cashin said nothing. With the staff. Pause. With the house. Another pause. With you. There it was. Cashin's face became unreadable. Eloan looked down. I know what this is. Do you? Yes. You're my employer. The word sounded wrong. Cashin hated it. Eloan continued. And lately I forget that. Maybe I do too. Her eyes lifted. Cashin immediately regretted saying it. Not because it wasn't true. Because it was. Eloan waited. Cashin had spent his life commanding rooms. Now 4 words terrified him. I don't want you to go. He couldn't say them. So he said something worse. Take the job if you want it. Eloan's face fell. Right. She left. Her final day would be Friday. Cashin spent the week becoming increasingly unbearable. Auric finally confronted him. You could ask her to stay. She wants to leave. She wants a reason not to. You're suddenly an expert? No. Auric leaned against the desk. But I have eyes. Cashin glared. Auric continued. You love her. Cashin's expression turned glacial. Don't. That's the problem. What? You think saying it creates the weakness? Cashin stood. This conversation is over. Your mother left. Cashin froze. Auric knew he had crossed a dangerous line. He continued anyway. She left you. So you decided everyone eventually does. Cashin's voice dropped. Careful. But Eloan isn't your mother. Get out. And you're not your father. Cashin slammed his hand against the desk. Out. Auric left. Cashin stood alone. Friday arrived. Eloan packed 2 suitcases. Mrs. Fenrir cried. Kitchen staff hugged her. Even the gardeners came inside. Cashin was nowhere. Eloan told herself she didn't care. At 4 that afternoon, a taxi waited at the gate. She carried her suitcase downstairs. Then an explosion shook the mansion. Glass shattered. People screamed. Eloan dropped her bag. Gunfire erupted outside. Mrs. Fenrir shouted. Down! Security men rushed through the hallway. A vehicle had crashed through the outer gate. Men emerged firing. The attack was not random. The rail depot ambush had failed. Cashin's rivals had decided to finish what they started. Eloan should have run toward the secure basement with the staff. She almost did. Then she heard Auric shout, Where is Cashin? No answer. Eloan knew. The library. Cashin had been there that morning. The west corridor was filling with smoke from a burning vehicle outside. Eloan ran. Eloan. Mrs. Fenrir screamed. She ignored her. A security officer tried stopping her. Basement. Cashin's in the library. We'll get him. But Eloan was already moving. She reached the west corridor. Smoke thickened. The library door was partially blocked by a fallen cabinet. She heard coughing inside. Cashin. Eloan. She pushed. The cabinet wouldn't move. Get away from here, he shouted. Wonderful suggestion. She pushed again. Go. No. Eloan. She found a brass fireplace tool and wedged it beneath the cabinet. The wood shifted. Inside, Cashin had been knocked down when part of the ceiling collapsed after the blast. His leg was trapped beneath a heavy beam. Eloan squeezed through the opening. Cashin stared at her. What are you doing? Apparently making terrible life choices. You need to leave. Not without you. Smoke curled overhead. Cashin tried lifting the beam. Couldn't. Eloan grabbed it. On 3. You can't lift this. Then stop wasting oxygen telling me. They pushed. Nothing. Eloan coughed. Cashin looked toward the doorway. Go. No. That's an order. I'm resigning, remember? Eloan. She looked at him. For the first time, Cashin saw fear in her face. Not fear of dying. Fear of leaving him. I'm not walking out of this room while you're under that beam. Something broke inside him. Not physically. Something older. Harder. The belief that everyone protected themselves first. The belief that affection vanished when staying became costly. Eloan had nothing to gain. Her employment was over. She owed him nothing. Yet the mansion was under attack, and she had run toward him. Cashin grabbed her arm. "If you die because of me, then help me make sure I don't." Voices sounded outside. "Oric!" Aloan screamed. "Here!" Security men forced through the doorway. Together, they lifted the beam. Aloan helped drag Cashin free. Oric grabbed him. Another guard pulled Aloan. They reached the secure corridor seconds before part of the library ceiling collapsed. Cashin turned. Aloan, she was coughing. Her face streaked with soot, but alive. He reached for her. Then gunfire sounded nearby. Security moved them downstairs. The attack lasted 11 minutes. 3 attackers were captured. The rest fled. No household employees were killed. 2 guards were injured. Cashin suffered a fractured ankle and smoke inhalation. Aloan had cuts on her hands. That night, she sat outside the medical room, exactly where she had sat after Cashin was shot months earlier. He found her there on crutches. "You're supposed to be treated." "I was." She showed bandaged palms. Cashin looked at them. "You went back for me." "Yes." "What?" Aloan stared. "Seriously?" "Yes." She stood. "Because you were trapped." "That isn't an answer." "It is. You could have died. So could you. I'm not your responsibility." Aloan's eyes filled with frustration. "Why does everything have to be a transaction with you?" Cashin became still. "You paid my sister's tuition. You protected staff when they made mistakes. You made sure Mrs. Finra got the surgery she needed last year, even though she thinks nobody knows." Cashin frowned. "How do you know that?" "She told me. She wasn't supposed to." "That's your problem." Aloan stepped closer. "You care about people constantly, and then pretend you don't. I didn't ask you to come back." "I know. Then why?" "Because I love you." Silence. Aloan froze. Cashin's face changed. She closed her eyes. There. She had said it. The words Cashin feared. The words that had ended his engagement years earlier. Aloan slowly opened her eyes. Cashin said nothing. Pain moved across her face. "Forget it." She turned. Cashin caught her hand. Not hard. "Aloan." "No." She pulled free. "I know you don't believe in it." "Aloan, I wasn't asking you to." She wiped her face. "And I certainly wasn't planning to tell you like this." She laughed bitterly. "Very romantic." Mansion attacked, both of us smelling like smoke. Cashin stared at her. "I don't know what to say." "I know. That hurt more than anything." Aloan nodded. "Then don't." She walked away. And if you stayed with this story this far, subscribe to the channel, because the woman Cashin Dravik thought he understood had just done the one thing he feared more than any rival. She loved him without asking for anything in return. But what happened the next morning would force the cold Mafia Boss to decide whether he would finally risk his heart or lose her forever. Aloan left. Not Friday as planned. Saturday morning. Cashin woke to discover her room empty. Her suitcase gone. Her key resting on the dresser. He stared at it. Mrs. Finra found him there. "You drove her away." Cashin didn't respond. "You're an idiot." Still nothing. Mrs. Finra sighed. "She ran into a burning library for you." It wasn't burning. It was filling with smoke and collapsing. Cashin looked at her. Not helping. Good. She left. Cashin returned to his study. Except his study wasn't there anymore. Part of the west wing had been damaged. So he sat in another room. Alone. For the first time in months, there were no flowers on his desk. No fruit beside his coffee. No voice complaining about curtains. No laughter from the kitchen. The mansion felt exactly as it had before Aloan arrived. Quiet. Orderly. Cold. Cashin hated it. He lasted 4 days. On the 5th, Oric entered carrying documents. We identified who financed the attack. Cashin read them. The rival organization had paid mercenaries. Cashin dealt with the security threat methodically. Evidence went to authorities where legitimate crimes were involved. His own network dismantled the rival group's access to several ports. Accounts were frozen through legal business disputes. Contracts vanished. Alliances shifted. Cashin could destroy enemies without firing a bullet. But none of it solved the problem consuming him. Aloan. Finally, Oric asked, "Have you called her?" "No." "What?" "She chose to leave." "She chose to leave after telling you she loved you and receiving silence." Cashin looked up. "What was I supposed to say?" "The truth." "I don't know the truth." Oric stared. "Yes, you do." Cashin stood. No, you just don't like it. Cashin walked to the window. Aura continued. You spent 5 days asking whether she's safe. That's security. You asked whether she found an apartment. Practical. You asked whether her new employer treats her well. Relevant. You had someone repair the broken heel on the shoes she left behind. Cashin turned. That was expensive leather. Auric stared at him. Cashin sighed. What do you want me to say? That you're miserable. I'm not miserable. You're standing in a room at 10 at night arguing about a maid's shoes. Cashin became silent. Auric softened. She didn't run into that library because you paid her. I know. She wasn't protecting her job. I know. She had already resigned. I know. Then perhaps you should ask yourself why that frightens you. Cashin knew. Because Aloan had disproved the rule around which he built his life. People stay where survival is guaranteed. Aloan had done the opposite. She had entered danger when survival meant leaving. For him, no payment, no contract, no obligation. Love. Cashin hated the word. Not because he didn't believe Aloan, because he did. And believing her meant accepting that his entire understanding of people might be wrong. The following afternoon, Cashin drove somewhere alone. No convoy, no security visible. He stopped outside a modest apartment building. Aloan opened her door after the third knock, then froze. Cashin stood there wearing a dark coat, one hand holding a cane because his ankle had not fully healed. What are you doing here? I came to see you. How did you find me? Cashin hesitated. She narrowed her eyes. Cashin. Auric, I'm going to kill him. You'll need an appointment. Aloan almost smiled. Almost. What do you want? Cashin looked behind her. May I come in? She considered, then opened the door. Her apartment was small, bright, plants near the window, books stacked everywhere. Cashin looked absurdly large inside it. Aloan remained standing. So, Cashin had negotiated with armed men more easily. I owe you an apology. Yes. He blinked. Aloan folded her arms. Continue. I should have said something that night. Yes. I didn't know how. I noticed. Cashin took a breath. You said you loved me. Aloan looked away. I remember. You weren't asking for anything. No. That confused me. She looked back. Why? Because everyone asks for something. Everyone. Eventually. Aloan's expression softened. Cashin continued. My mother left when I was 14. Aloan said nothing. He had never told her. She left my father. That wasn't wrong. No. Cashin swallowed. She left me too. Aloan's face changed. She could have taken me. She didn't. Cashin. My father taught me loyalty through fear. My mother taught me survival mattered more than attachment. And everyone afterward taught me affection had a price. He looked around her apartment. You're extremely inconvenient. Aloan blinked. Excuse me? You keep doing things that don't fit. She almost laughed. Is this your apology? I'm struggling. Clearly. Cashin stepped closer. You protected a kitchen assistant when there was nothing in it for you. You cared for Mrs. Fenra without expecting gratitude. You refused my money when you needed it. You ran toward a collapsing room after you'd already resigned. His voice became quieter. And you told me you loved me without asking me to give you anything. Aloan's eyes filled. Cashin looked terrified now. Not Mafia Boss terrified. Human terrified. I don't know how to do this. Do what? This. What is this? He looked at her. Love someone. Aloan stopped breathing. Cashin continued. I know how to protect. I know how to provide. I know how to make problems disappear. I don't know how to wake up and care whether someone laughed yesterday. Her lips parted. I don't know why I know how you take your tea. I don't know why I noticed you stop humming the week before you resigned. I don't know why the house feels wrong without your ridiculous flowers. They weren't ridiculous. They were yellow. You hate yellow. I hate flowers. You kept them. That's the problem. Aloan laughed through tears. Cashin's expression softened. I don't know what love is supposed to feel like. But if it's noticing that every room feels colder after one person leaves. If it's wanting to tell someone things I've never said aloud. If it's being more afraid of losing one woman than losing half my empire. He paused. Then I may have a serious problem. Aloan stared. That's your declaration? I warned you I'm inexperienced. She laughed. Cashin smiled. Fully. Not almost. Eloan had never seen it before. It changed his entire face. She stepped closer. Say it plainly. Cashin's smile disappeared. Fear returned. Why? Because I had to. He understood. Eloan waited. Cashin Dravik had ordered men into danger without blinking. He had stared down weapons, buried family, survived betrayal, built an empire, but 3 words nearly defeated him. Finally, I love you. Eloan closed her eyes. Cashin exhaled as though he'd stepped off a cliff. She opened them. Again, he frowned. Don't abuse this. Again, I love you. She smiled. Better. Cashin looked at her. Does this mean you're coming back? Her smile vanished. No. He blinked. What? I won't return as your maid. Cashin stared. Oh. Eloan raised an eyebrow. You sound disappointed. No. You absolutely do. I hadn't considered the logistical implications. She laughed. Cashin shook his head. I don't want you as my maid. What do you want? He looked at her. You. That's vague. Eloan. I need boundaries. Fine. I need my own work. Yes. My own money. Yes. And I'm not moving into your mansion tomorrow because you finally discovered emotions. Cashin looked personally attacked. How long? We're negotiating? I negotiate everything. 3 months. 1, 3, 6 weeks. 2 months. 7 weeks. Eloan laughed. Fine. That was their first agreement as something other than employer and employee. Their first date happened 3 days later. Eloan chose the restaurant. Cashin arrived with security. She stared at the 3 men. No. Cashin sighed. 2. 1. 2. Cashin. 1 visible. Acceptable. Oric remained outside. Cashin hated every minute. Eloan found it hilarious. Their relationship surprised everyone. Cashin did not become soft overnight. He remained intimidating, controlled, sometimes emotionally impossible. Eloan remained stubborn, warm, and utterly unwilling to worship him. She challenged him when necessary, but she never tried to transform him into someone harmless. She understood the world he came from. She simply demanded that the man he was with her be honest. 6 months later, Cashin invited her to a formal gala. Eloan wore a bright emerald gown. She looked magnificent. She also looked nervous. Cashin noticed. What? Nothing. Eloan. She sighed. Some of these people remember me serving dinner at your house. So, they'll talk. Yes. She looked at him. That doesn't bother you? Cashin's expression hardened. Why would it? Because I'm your former maid. No. And because I'm... She stopped. Cashin waited. Eloan gestured toward herself. He understood. Her sighs. He became almost offended. You believe I'm embarrassed by you? No. Then what? I know how these rooms work. Cashin looked toward the ballroom. So do I. He offered his arm. Let them look. She took it. They entered. People did look. Some whispered. Eloan noticed. Cashin noticed her noticing. An older socialite approached later. She smiled too sweetly. Miss Voss. What an extraordinary transformation. Eloan raised an eyebrow. From what? The woman hesitated. Well, from household work to this. Eloan smiled. I still know how to clean silver if that's what you're asking. Cashin nearly smiled. The woman continued. Cashin has always had such unpredictable taste. There it was. Eloan knew exactly what she meant. Before Eloan could answer, Cashin did. My taste isn't unpredictable. The woman looked at him. I simply stopped choosing people based on what rooms like this approve of. Silence. Cashin turned to Eloan. Dance? She smiled. Absolutely. That evening mattered. Not because Cashin defended her. Eloan could defend herself. It mattered because he did not ask her to pretend the insult hadn't happened simply to preserve social comfort. He saw it, named it, moved on. Their relationship deepened. Then came the greatest test. Not an attack. Not a rival. Cashin's mother returned. Evilist Dravik arrived after 26 years. She requested a private meeting. Cashin almost refused. Eloan encouraged him to decide what he actually wanted rather than what anger demanded. He agreed. Evilist entered the mansion older, elegant, and visibly nervous. Cashin looked at her. For several seconds, he was 14 again. Why are you here? She swallowed. To apologize. 26 years late. Yes. Why didn't you take me? No pleasantries. No small talk. Straight to the wound. Evil's eyes filled. Because I was selfish. Cashin had expected excuses. Abuse. Fear. Money. Circumstances. Instead, I was afraid. I convinced myself your father would never hurt his heir. I told myself you were safer with him. But part of the truth is that taking you would have made leaving harder. Cashin looked away. So you chose yourself. Yes. The honesty hurt. But strangely, it also freed something. Evilus continued. I thought survival was enough. Cashin remembered the sentence. People stay where survival is guaranteed. He looked toward the window. No. His mother waited. It isn't. Evilus nodded. I know that now. Cashin did not forgive her that day. Or the next. Forgiveness was not a switch. But he began speaking with her. Slowly. Eloan never pushed. One evening Cashin asked, why aren't you telling me to forgive her? Because it isn't my wound. That answer made him love her more. A year after Eloan resigned from Dravik House, Cashin took her back to the kitchen where everything began. 2:17 in the morning. Eloan entered wearing pajamas. She stopped. Cashin stood beside the counter. A bowl of soup waited. She stared. What are you doing? Cooking. That is a very generous description. Sit. Eloan laughed. Why? Sit. She did. Cashin placed the soup before her. She tasted it. Her face changed. Cashin frowned. Bad. Horrific. He sighed. I followed the recipe. You somehow made water aggressive. Cashin sat opposite. Eloan laughed, then noticed the small box beside his hand. Her laughter stopped. Cashin. He picked it up. I had a speech. Oh no. I've decided against it. Probably wise. He opened the box. A ring. Simple compared with what he could afford. Elegant. Chosen for her rather than his reputation. Eloan covered her mouth. Cashin looked at her. The first night you saw me bleeding, you treated me like a man who needed help rather than a name you needed to fear. You ruined my floor. I remember. You were very inconsiderate. Eloan. Sorry. He continued. You taught me that kindness isn't weakness. That love isn't ownership. That people can stay when staying costs them something. And that sometimes someone leaves not because they don't love you, but because loving you shouldn't require losing themselves. Eloan's eyes filled. Cashin held the ring. I don't need you to live in my house. I don't need you to carry my name. I don't need you to become anything smaller, quieter, thinner, easier, or more acceptable to anyone. His voice softened. I just want to build a life where you keep choosing me. Eloan cried. Cashin waited. She wiped her cheeks. You still haven't asked. He stared. After all that? Question mark, Cashin. He sighed. Eloan Voss. Will you marry me? Yes. Cashin froze. She laughed. Yes. Yes. You're certain? Would you like me to reconsider? No. He put the ring on her finger immediately. Eloan stared at it. Then at him. You know what the funniest part is? What? You spent years believing love made people weak. Cashin nodded. And she smiled. You fell in love with the woman who argued with you about curtains. I've made serious mistakes. She threw a napkin at him. He caught it. Then she walked around the table and kissed him. Their wedding was held 8 months later. Mrs. Finra cried before the ceremony started. Oric claimed dust was responsible for his eyes. Maylie served as Eloan's maid of honor. Sorel attended too. She hugged Eloan and whispered, You did what none of us could. Eloan shook her head. No. What? I didn't fix him. Across the garden, Cashin was arguing with a florist because someone had changed Eloan's requested flowers. Eloan smiled. He decided to change himself. That mattered, because Eloan was never the magical woman whose love repaired a dangerous man. Cashin did the work. He confronted the beliefs he had built around abandonment. He learned to apologize, to communicate, to accept uncertainty, to let Eloan disagree without treating disagreement as disloyalty. And Eloan did her own work. She learned that independence did not mean refusing every kindness, that accepting help was not the same as owing obedience, that being plus-size did not require gratitude when someone found her beautiful. She had always known she deserved respect. Cashin learned to deserve her trust. Years later, Dravik House changed. Not physically at first. Emotionally. Employees laughed more. Doors stayed open. Cashin remained feared outside. Inside, people learned that fear was not the only language he understood. The yellow flowers returned to his study. He complained. Eloan ignored him. They remained. One winter evening, Auric found Cashin reading beside the fireplace. Eloan was asleep on the sofa, a book resting on her chest. Auric looked at the flowers. You hate those. Yes. Yet they've been here 3 years. Cashin turned a page. My wife likes them. Auric smiled. Profoundly depressing. Cashin looked up. What? Remember that wedding years ago? Cashin did. The conversation. You don't believe any of this? Some stay because leaving is expensive. Cashin looked toward Eloan. She had stayed through danger. Then left when staying threatened her independence. Then returned when the choice became hers. He finally understood. Love was not proven simply by staying. Sometimes leaving was an act of self-respect. Love was having the freedom to leave and still choosing again and again to return. Cashin looked at Auric. I was wrong. Auric nearly dropped his drink. Could you repeat that? No. I need witnesses. Leave. Auric laughed and walked away. Eloan stirred. What happened? Nothing. She opened one eye. You admitted you were wrong, didn't you? Cashin stared. How did you hear that? I felt a disturbance in the universe. He closed his book. She laughed. Cashin looked at her for a long moment. What? Nothing. You're staring. Yes. What? Cashin thought about the first night. Blood on marble. Soup growing cold. A woman with messy curls ordering a feared man into a chair. He thought about the library. Smoke. A beam crushing his leg. Eloan refusing to leave. He thought about her resignation. Her apartment. The first time he said the words he had spent his life avoiding. I love you. Cashin smiled. Because you're still here. Eloan sat up. Where else would I be? He didn't answer. She understood anyway. She walked toward him. Cashin took her hand. And that was the thing nobody expected. Not that a plus-size maid captured the attention of a cold mafia boss. Not that she ran into danger when everyone else was escaping. Not that she challenged him when powerful men were afraid to meet his eyes. The truly unexpected thing was simpler. Eloan gave Cashin something he had never believed existed. Love without submission. Kindness without debt. Loyalty without fear. And when he tried to hold on to her without admitting what she meant to him, she walked away. That was the moment that changed him most. Because Cashin learned that love did not mean possessing someone strongly enough that they could never leave. It meant becoming someone they could freely choose to return to. Years after their wedding, the repaired west wing of the mansion contained a new library. Eloan supervised the restoration herself. Cashin entered on opening day. Sunlight poured through enormous windows. He frowned. The curtains. Eloan smiled. What about them? They're open. Books need airflow. That's not how humidity control works. Eloan stared. Cashin smiled. I learned something. After all these years, don't become unreasonable. She laughed. He walked toward her. There were moments when Eloan still saw the man everyone else saw. The black suits. The controlled expression. The security men. The scars. The reputation that entered rooms before he did. But she also knew the man who made terrible soup. The man who secretly paid hospital bills for retired employees. The man who kept yellow flowers he hated because they made his wife happy. The man who had once believed love was simply a transaction waiting to reveal its price. Cashin wrapped an arm around her. Happy. Eloan looked around the library. Very good. Although, Cashin sighed. What? That table is wrong. He looked. It cost 20,000. Still wrong. Eloan. It blocks the light. Cashin closed his eyes. She laughed. And if this story touched you, subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories about unexpected love, hidden wounds, loyalty, betrayal, and the extraordinary moments that can change even the hardest heart. Before you go, tell me something in the comments. Which moment stayed with you the most? Was it when Eloan saw the feared mafia boss bleeding in the kitchen and, instead of running from him, complained that he was ruining her freshly cleaned floor? Was it when she refused to let his money become a debt and insisted on repaying her sister's tuition because she needed her independence to remain hers? Was it the terrifying moment she ran toward the collapsing library after she had already resigned, refusing to leave Cashin trapped beneath the beam? Or was it when Aloan finally confessed that she loved him, only to walk away the next morning because love without freedom wasn't enough? Maybe your favorite moment was Cashin standing inside her tiny apartment, finally admitting that he didn't understand love, but knew every room in his mansion had become colder without her. Or perhaps it was when he finally said the 3 words he had spent his entire life avoiding. I love you. Let me know your favorite moment below. And if you enjoyed Aloan and Cashin's story, like the video and share it with someone who loves emotional stories where the person everyone underestimates becomes the one person nobody can replace. Because Cashin Dravik spent most of his life believing every relationship had a price. Money bought cooperation. Fear bought obedience. Power bought loyalty. And love? He believed love was simply another bargain people abandoned when the cost became too high. Then a plus-size maid walked into his mansion. She argued about his curtains, protected frightened employees, refused his money, fed him when he was wounded, made him laugh when he had almost forgotten how. And when a mansion full of armed men was under attack, she ran toward the one man everyone else was trying to protect. But even that wasn't the most unexpected thing she did. The most unexpected thing was walking away afterward. She loved him enough to save him. But she loved herself enough not to remain somewhere her heart could only exist in silence. And for the first time in Cashin Dravik's life, the cold Mafia boss finally understood what love really demanded. Not possession, not obedience, not fear, choice. Aloan chose herself. Cashin chose to change. And when they finally chose each other, neither one had to surrender who they were to make the other stay.